Now, in a rare high-level contact between Russia and the United States, the defense secretaries of both countries held a telephonic conversation. During the phone call, the situation of Ukraine was discussed. This is the first time the defense secretaries of Russia and the United States have spoken since 13th of May. The Pentagon said that during the phone call, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin emphasized on the importance of maintaining the lines of communication amid the ongoing war against Ukraine. Meanwhile, Moscow said that the call was needed to clear up misunderstandings. The last time both the defense secretaries held a conversation was in May, like I said, when Austin urged his counterpart to implement an immediate ceasefire. And the latest call comes after the Russian President Vladimir Putin said that he may be willing to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. However, officials from the United Kingdom and the United States say that the chances of Putin carrying out these veiled threats are very low. The relations between Russia and the United States has sunk to new lows since the start of Russia's military campaign in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia has accused the United States of seeking to prolong the conflict by providing financial and military aid to Ukraine. At the same time, right ahead of the G20 summit hosted by Indonesia next month, the Russian president said that he had no intentions of meeting with Biden, but did not rule out any kind of potential talks. Putin and Biden had held several calls in the months before the war, in which the United States president had warned his Russian counterpart to stand down. But there have been no talks between the leaders since the invasion began. Ben Friedman is a policy director at Defense Priorities and is joining us live from Boston to talk more about this latest development. Ben, welcome to WION.
Thanks for having me on.
How do you view this conversation between the defense ministers? On one end, they call for more communications, and on the other, Russia is not happy with the United States supplying weapons to Ukraine.
Yeah, well, I think that's sort of old news. I mean, I think the Russians are going to be unhappy regardless of any likely outcome here. But the important thing, I think, is that the United States should have a dialogue with Russia, independent, really, of the peace talks between Ukraine and Russia that I hope will come sooner or later, because we want to communicate about avoiding nuclear war and escalation, and get more information sort of about where Russian red lines really are. And of course, they're not going to be totally clear about that. But the more you communicate, I think the better information you have. And it does tend to increase our safety a bit, you know, to sort of keep limited war limited, if that's what we're in.
Ben, going by what Secretary Lloyd Austin says about opening up communications, what impact would that have on the war if both sides were to follow the advice?
Well, I don't think it will have much effect on the day-to-day course of the war, which, of course, the United States is not a direct party to. Obviously, we're arming Ukraine a lot, but we're not directly involved, and these aren't peace talks. I don't think we're settling the conflict, though that would be terrific. What effect it will have is potentially keep the war from growing larger and escalating in new ways. So, you know, if the United States could assure Russia, for example, that there are limits to what we'll do for Ukraine, that will keep them from carrying out further assassinations, which apparently they did in Russia, that will limit their ability to strike Russian territory, I think it might make Russia feel a little more secure. I mean, they're worried that the United States is trying to overthrow their government.
Right.
At least some of them are. And we'd like them not to be worried about that, because they might get desperate and do crazy things like set off a tactical nuke.
Ben, finally, in essence and in your own assessment, where is this war headed? Russia has been accused of waging a drone war, while Ukraine is steadfast that it is pushing the Russian forces away.
I think that right now Ukraine is winning. They're making progress. They had this big breakthrough in the north. They may be having one in Kherson in the south, where Russia's hanging on but struggling to do so. So the question is if Russia can stabilize the lines now with these this mobilization they're doing, and I think they may be able to, and the war may be headed towards a brutal stalemate. I think at this time that's the most likely outcome, that the lines sort of become more solid, and the war just continues in a sort of trench warfare style for a while.
Ben Friedman, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for giving us time today. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.